the structured method of 3D animation, human run cycle. In this course, you learn how to animate a dynamic humanoid run cycle using a simple, clear, and straightforward method that strengthens both your artistic eye and your animation process. We'll follow a layered workflow, starting with a strong base pose and then adding the 9 key poses that shape a natural, believable run cycle. The structured method can be applied to create any humanoid run cycle with a similar rig. By the end, you'll have built a polished run cycle that conveys strength, rhythm, and character. You'll also learn how to refine your animation with curve editing and keep your work organized using the dope sheet. This method will give you the confidence in your workflow and sharpen your understanding of timing, spacing, posing, and anatomy in motion. Welcome to the structured method of 3D animation, human run cycle. Let's reference in the rig first. So here's a brand new Maya scene. I go to File, Create Reference. I go to the cyborg folder, and this one, not the lighting, but this one is what I'm going to reference. And here it comes. Okay, so, and you can see there, you can see it in the reference editor now. Here it is. It has been referenced in. Now let's make a few edits on this rig. So first thing we'll do is we go here, select this, and let's turn off a few things. The bend visibility, I'm going to turn it off simply because we won't be using it. Next we will go to the IK toggle. So that plus and this plus we select by shift selecting, and turn this IK blend to all the way to 10 so that the arms are in inverse kinematics. Then we go to the head right here and see this global, just put it to 10. And what this does is when there are rotations on the body, the head remains stable and aimed the same way. So this removes shaking on the head, when unnecessary shaking on the head when the character moves, and yet we are able to rotate the head however we want. The next thing we'll do is we'll kind of improve the look of this character. I'm going to make the legs stronger by selecting these two controls and then go to fatness 1 and 2. 1, we'll just increase it to 0.2, and fatness 2, that is for the calves. .3. And similarly, we'll go to the arms. Select this and this controller. Actually, no. Select this and this, and we go to fatness 1 to like 0.2 and fatness 2 for the lower arm. 0.4. That looks right, because we gotta have a very believable, strong, athletic looking character for a very strong, athletic kind of a run. Okay, that concludes rig preparation. Now let's prep the file itself for animation. The first thing I'm going to do is set up a nice layout with one perspective camera and one top camera here. That is panels, orthographic top, and then here panels, perspective, like one of these perspective, and one more here for a front camera. Right, panels, ortho front. And here I'm going to add just a nice thin view of the graph editor, which I can convert it into dope sheet here. And in the dope sheet, let's make sure that I have view, scene summary turned on. Then let's go to these 3 panels and make sure that we see only NURB curves and polygons. Same here as well, NURB curves and polygons, and here say none, and then say NURB curves and polygons. Great. Right, then the next thing we're going to do is go to the preferences and make sure that in the time slider its frame rate is 30 frames per second, and here playback is at 30 FPS times 1. Save. Next, we need to go to the time slider itself and make sure that it starts at 0. That is here. I'm going to say 0, and yes, 0. And this we can end for now at say 60. There we go. So 0 to 60. And then finally what we do is we go to the first frame, that is frame 0, and then we select this entire character and drop a key there. That is, press S. That makes sure that we have a nice key that has been dropped on all the animatable parts of this rig. Done. Now this file is ready to do character animation. And now let's create a surface for this running to happen on. For that, I'll just create a cube and scale it like this. Keep it real thin and real narrow as well, because when you run, especially for an athletic figure like this, the legs tend to be very close to each other in a straight line as you run. And I'll now place it right on the plane. The ground plane, that is. And this I shall place into a layer known as ground. Here is added, and it's turned into reference as well. Let's do one more thing. Let's bring in the run cycle reference chart in here. For that, I'm going to create a free image plane, and let's make sure we show that. Here it is, image plane. Control A for access to the attributes. I click on this, and let's go find the chart, and here it is, run cycle poses, open, and here it is. I'm going to scale it up and position it in a way that is easy for me to see in this file. I'll place it in a separate layer. I'll call it run cycle reference chart, and I'll turn it into a reference so I don't accidentally click it. Here. I want to point out that every time I make a specific change in my Maya file, or reach a certain stage of animation, I save a version of the Maya file in .ma format with a very simple naming convention. This is something that will continue to grow, so that at any stage I can always go back to previous stage and continue on if I made an error. So I recommend that for you as well. Now let's set up Studio Library. This is a wonderful software to allow us to save poses and selection sets. Very useful for animation, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is unzip the Studio Library files that you downloaded from the site and place it in a folder known as Studio Library or something, in a very easily accessible spot. So here it is. When I open that, you can see everything is here. Great. So these are the unzipped files. Now the way you install it is very simple. Just grab this install file and simply drag it into any of these panels and let go, and there it is. It just fell into place here. Next, what I'll do is create a folder here known as Studio Library Data, and so this is where I'm going to store all the data of poses and file and everything else into. So now with that in place, I'm going to simply click on this here, and the panel opens up. Now click on these three lines, click on it, go to settings, and let's point it to that data folder I created. So I go here and Studio Library Data there, and say save. Great. Now I'm going to create what's known as a mirror file. Now we're going to create what's known as a mirror table. This is a specific file that this software needs to know how a character is orienting itself to allow it to create a good mirrored image, that is left side, right side, etc. Okay, so first make sure that your character is in its bind pose at frame 0, and then, well, let's create a folder here first. Plus folder, call it data or something. Now select the entire character like this, and we go to plus and say mirror table, then use this little button to take a picture of the character that represents the mirror table. So for mirror tables, I like to keep it to create a picture that looks like this. And say capture mirror table, and YZ. YZ is this plane that cuts the character in half. YZ, very good, and say save. Done. Mirror table has been created. There's nothing else to do here, and this has done its job for now. So I'm going to close this. Now we need to come up with a primary running pose. Based on the structure of this run, the primary running pose is something that captures the essence of this person, of this character, and that has a lot to do with the character design, the physicality of this character, the story, the purpose of that run, etc. So at this point, I'm going to create one that is very athletic, very dynamic, very athletic, and very confident. Now, looking at all these poses, what is the one pose that we can use to create the primary running pose? I always go with this one, the contact right, and hence I put this mark 1 star star, the most important pose. You do that, and the personality of the entire run would be set by this. So let's get started on this. Always start from the hips, and for the hips, this is the controller that determines its position and also overall orientation. So this is what I'm going to start with, and for this I'm going to use a perspective view and the top view in particular. All right, the first thing I'll do is I'm going to give it a small tilt forward. I'm going to pay attention to this pose quite a lot. A small tilt forward, and from here, because it's a right leg forward, the hip is going to tilt towards the right. I'm giving it almost a 45-degree angle on this. And from the front, we won't see too much of a change because the hips will be quite level in this pose. Now we can take the leg and start positioning it. This is going to be one of the most challenging poses to create because this is the starter of everything, and the intelligence of this entire run is kind of built into this pose. Right, so now very important, when you use this main controller to move the legs, but for all the angling of the foot, use the heel, the toe, and the ball, or the ankle control. So here we go. For this, I'm going to angle it like this, but the actual positioning will be controlled using this main thing. Now, obviously, this means I have to bring the hip down, and I'm bringing the feet inwards because, like I said earlier, for an athletic run, the legs are going to be falling on a very straight and narrow line as he runs. Now I'm going to avoid my desire to want to rotate this, because I'm going to do all rotations using the smaller controls. But positioning will be with this big control. And as I'm creating this, my feelings, I'm going to just use this chart as a guideline, but I'm going to be guided really by my feelings about this character's attitude. Now, there isn't much to look at. It looks pretty goofy at this point, but we are slowly and surely building up this personality in this run. Now, very important for this run, the legs are going to, his leg is going to go buckle inwards, so this would actually go in like this. And I'm going to use this picture, this view, to really get a picture of how much it should go inside. Now, something very interesting is that this leg, and at this pose, I'm going to create a curve like this, so that he's really touching down on the outer edge of his heel. That's going to make the run very cool looking as it once it reaches that point. And similarly, the back leg also, I'm going to curl it inwards like that to create this really cool arc. So the hip and the legs are really the most important thing to work on before we move on to everything else. Okay, once I have this mostly under control, and I believe in that pose, then I'm going to go work on the arms. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to work on the spine next. I have selected these 3 spine controls, specifically this, and this. These 3, and have created a selection set. And so anytime I can just select it, and I'm going to use it to now create the right angling of the spine for our work. I'm using this only as a guideline, but really, more than anything else, allowing myself to be guided by what I see on the rig, the character design itself. So gentle angle this way, and a gentle angle towards his right foot. I'm going to ignore the arms for now. I'm focusing entirely on the spine. So this is what it's looking like, and I'm going to make a few more touches up on the other parts to create a nice curvature on the leg like this. So that I see a nice curvature on the leg like this, like here, and the spine is done. The neck is going to be tilted just a tiny bit forward. And now for the arms. So notice that this is the left arm that is going forward, right arm back, left shoulder and slightly forward, and left, and the right is back. And the arm, the left arm, kind of turns inward to the front. I'm going to just push it a little to the front. the shoulder, we shall not move the shoulder like that. We'll simply use rotations for the shoulder, because this rig is designed very beautifully that the entire scapula movements can be accomplished using this rotation. On this rig, the fingers can be controlled very easily individually or as groups by selecting this big arc. There. So this is what I come up with, and I'm always finding ways to improve it. My intention is to keep the athletic quality of our character, while making any change I make. So I think I'm quite happy with this for now, and that should be it for now. Let's review the primary running pose. So you can see that the entire body is tilted forward into the direction of the run. The legs have a nice angling and a curvature that I've created by positioning where this is, and including on the feet itself. Both legs, this back leg as well, is curved inwards. The spine has been tilted to his right just enough, and when seen from the top you can see that the shoulders are almost aligned but slightly favoring his right side, and the head is held upright. Arms have the right arm is going off to the side a bit, creating more of a gap to create a nice triangle space between from the torso, and the left arm is brought inwards a little bit. Our primary running pose. Let's create the contact right poses. That is this contact right, and it's the end of the cycle, this one. So as you know, our running cycle is going to have 9 main poses: contact right, down right, and so on and so on, ending with the same pose. So I'm going to take this exact pose and make a copy to create the last one. And since there are no other poses created so far, and I'm just going to make sure that everything has been keyed. So here it is at 0. I'm just going to hit S. Great. I'm going to simply use this pose to create this final pose, simply by copying this and pasting it say somewhere around here. We will fine tune the timing very shortly. Paste. Great. So you can see that the first pose and the last pose have been created. And in that process, the contact right and the first contact right and the last contact right are done. Now let's create contact left. That is this pose. This one. So this is a flipped version of contact right. So for that, we're going to use our studio library. So the first thing I'm going to do is create this, define this pose in our studio library. So I go to frame 0, select the entire character, and I'm going to say create pose, and this is going to be called contact right. I'll take a picture of it. There it is. And save. Yes. Okay, now this is the pose that I'm going to use to create the contact left, and contact left is going to be exactly in the middle of this entire cycle. So that's going to be, I'm going to place it here. We will come back to the timings very shortly. So for now, this is just a rough placement. So here it is, right in the middle. I will simply use this mirror option and say, keeping this checked on, I'm going to say apply, and we created a mirror, and here it is. So now we have a contact right and a contact left and back to contact right. So let's work on the timing of our character. That is, how long does it take to go from contact right to the to contact left and back to the same contact right. For this, I have given you a timer link. Here it is. You can use any timer for this, but make sure it's running at FPS, that is frames per second, at 30 frames per second, because our animation also is running at 30 FPS. Okay, so let's visualize it in our minds. So right, left, right. How long does it take? So here's how to reset, and here's how you time it. You can stop, reset, start, stop, reset, and the number of frames that elapsed shows up here. Reset. So the way I'd like to do this is just kind of visualize it for yourself. So feel that character. How is his style of running? Is it like right, left, right, or is it like right, left, right? So this is how I feel this character, with this kind of a musculature, and he's about, let's say he's about 6 foot tall, very powerful cyborg-like character. The way he runs, it's gonna be more like boom, boom, boom. 32. Try again. Boom, boom, boom. 31. Very good. Try again. Boom, boom, boom. 31. Very good. I'm gonna go with 32 because this does need to be an even number, right? 32 frames. So here we go. So 0 to 20, 40. What I'm going to do is, so I'm going to take this 40, that is right, left, right. This 40 comes to 40, 32. Here it is. You can just type it here. And therefore this has to be 16, which is the center of this whole thing. So this means that we are going to work off this 0 to 16 to 32, right? So we can now change this to 0 to inside 32. So when you press this, we have our basic running speed. Great, there we go. Let's work on the stride length, that is the distance the character covers from 0 to 32 frames. That is when he goes from his right leg to left and back to right. What is a full distance covered? Well, a very good rule of thumb to use as a general rule is that the stride length is 4 times the length for the stretched leg. That is from this heel to the hip. That distance 4 times is a good estimate for a humanoid. And so to get that, I have taken this and I have used D and V to move the pivot Just D and V, hold on to snap the pivot to the edge. I'll move this to here, and I'm trying to find a good marker for this, so I'm going to go for that little the edge of the heel right here, and just turn this towards the hip, and I'm going to go for a spot like this. Doesn't have to be exact, but this is a really good estimate. Great, there it is. So that is the length of the leg itself. So for the full stride length, it's going to be 4 times this distance. So I'm going to just select this, duplicate it, Control D, move it, and I'll just snap it. Hold on V, snap it to here. I'm going to shift it a little bit so I can see the difference. I can see each of the lengths, and then once again, Control D, snap it, and once again. There. So this distance is the distance for the right leg, left leg, back to right leg. And so we're going to go with this assumption. Now what we're going to do is select all these 4 pieces. Let's modify freeze transform, so it's all zeroed out. And then what we're going to do is group all this into one, so it's one object. So I'm selecting all this, go to edit and say group. Here it is. So it's one object like this. So when you see it in the outliner, you'll see it as one object, right? And this is what we're going to animate. To animate it, what we do is I go to frame 0, I select that group, and I'm going to start from here. That is, let's go find that spot. There we go. That's good. So put a key there and slide all the way to 32, and slide all this to the exact point on the heel right there. Key. So there we go. So you can see our character running like that. Now to make it exact, what we do is make sure the group is selected, go to the graph editor, and instead of a spline a curve like this, we're going to make it linear, because that movement is a very linear movement. So click, there we go. So now what we should see is when this next leg, that is our left leg, falls, it will automatically fall on frame 16, that is the middle, exactly at that little cut mark, and that's a guarantee that it works beautifully. So there we go. We have now set up the stride length. The next thing we're going to do is make sure that the curves we generated for the character and also the ground cycles infinitely. That is, before and after the movement it cycles. This will make sure that our character will continuously run even if the timeline is much larger. And this again, and it's necessary for us to animate without any hitches in the movement. Alright, so here we go. Select the character. Here's the curves. First go to view and make sure infinity is turned on, so you can see before and after the motion. Now we go to curves, go to pre-infinity, make it cycle. See, you can see the cycling movement. And then post-infinity, curves, post-infinity, that also goes to cycle. So there we go. And let's do that on the ground also. That is curves, pre-cycle, curves, post-infinity, cycle. Great. So now what happens is, if you scale this up, you'll see that even if the actual animation is here, it will continue to cycle like this. And this is going to help us nicely in managing the animation. While working on any stage of the animation, it is very important that we focus on the poses, the timing, etc., and try to improve it as we go. So I have made a few more adjustments, and so this is what the contact right looks like, contact left, and contact right. So I like these poses a lot better. So I pulled this backwards a little more, and I straightened out the hip a little more. So it has a nice little lean, and it looks fantastic from the front as well. and of course on the back. So yeah, you can, and the whole thing is at an angle. Great. It's time to work on the down poses, and then the up poses, then the flight poses. This is the timing I'm using, and you're not required to use it exactly, but and timing changes based on the size of the character, the musculature of the character, the mass of the character, and all that. And but for this exercise, this is what I'm using, and for our character. And yes, I encourage you to use it the same to get the same results, but understand that timing varies based on the character and the character design. Okay, so the timing I'm using, and it's important to note that it's at 30 frames per second, is 0, 3, 7, 11, 16, the midpoint, 19, 23, 27, and then 32. Right, so the down poses will be at 3 and 19. That is down right at 3, down left at 19. Now that we have created the most important poses as far as I'm concerned, that is the contact right, contact left, and contact right again. All these other poses in the middle are going to be like breakdowns. That is just, we're going to make some small changes here and there only on the parts that matter. Right, that's the philosophy of the whole thing, right? So the goal is not to just kind of move everything around. It is just where it matters, because we got to use the computer to train intelligently with minimal interference from us. All right, for the down poses, what I'm interested in is to lower the hip straight down, that is on the y-axis, and specifically on this controller, right? And because this is the one we're gonna use for the up and down movements, and later for the forward and backwards, and even the sideway movements, right? So this is a very, very important controller. So we're gonna push it straight down only, and then we will of course adjust the legs as well, right? But we will, at this point, will not worry too much about the arms. Yes, all right, so let's get started. So it's gonna be at frame 3, and so this, here it is. Let's do the work now. A good way to go about this is do it from the graph editor if that is comfortable for you, but I like to do it visually, and so you can see a change in the graph. Very good. And so how much? Well, that is all quite subjective. So, but it's based on his athletic nature, right? This is what I think is appropriate. Right, and we will come back to improve it later if necessary. So similarly, let's go to the opposite leg, and for this one you can just insert a key right here and then lower it by holding down shift and using the move tool and middle mouse. That is shift, middle mouse, straight down to get it close to this. I don't like to make it mathematically accurate because organic movement is not exactly accurate. The only thing we need to make accurate is, of course, the first and the last poses need to be exact. Okay, cool. Right, so now we have a down pose. Let's get a sense of how it's playing. Great. Very good. Looks pretty funny, but don't be disturbed. We're building a very complex movement in a very structured way. Okay, now let's work on a couple of things. So it's not only a lowering of the hip. The hip is very critical in a few other things, and this is why we see it from here. In the down pose, actually, I take it back. So we're good. So this is all we need. Now let's work on the legs. All right. Okay. So a good way to go about making this pose for the leg is to just select the main controller, and then, since we know that we are tracking the movement using this edge of this ground, so here in this new pose I'm going to drag this back to the edge. Of course we have to make this 0 as well, like that, so that you can see that the leg is tracking backwards accurately, and you can make it as accurate as you want. There. Excellent. And let's do this, and yeah, build, let's improve this also for the leg. So the goal is to keep it nice and firm, the leg, the weight bearing leg. So not there, I just finished the left leg as well, like that. Okay, very good. So now we got the weight bearing legs taken care of. So now let's take care of the floating leg. That is, in this case, in this first one is going to be the left leg, and then the right leg. Right, so the way to do this is, again, you want to create a pose that looks almost like a crossover pose. Not too much, not too back, just about like this. And as said before, any rotations we want to do on this controller. So I'm going to angle it somewhat like that, a little away from the body, like that, and position it like this. And from here, what it should look like is knees a little inward. The knee is going to be inward. And for the leg, it's important that in this pose is the heel is also inward. That is, so when seen from here, from this front, it's going to be not like that, but so here's a center point and a little bit into that, inside that. Great. Now some final tweaks to make this a beautiful pose. The leg will take the heel and kind of turn it inward like this, and also like that. Great. That makes it aesthetically pleasing as well. Now let's do the same on the other leg here. Okay, done. So now I have the contact, sorry, down right and down left. Let's see how it plays. Very good. Yeah, so this is the look we want at this stage. Let's work on the up poses next. The timing I'm choosing for this is up poses will be at frame 7 for up right and 23 for up left. Let's look at the features of this. This is a very, very important pose that is the reason why the character has the energy to propel the run. And so for this, the right leg here is going to be firmly placed. The heel is lifted up. The ball of the foot is down firmly on the ground, and the leg is outstretched. And the hip is twisted towards his left and tilted to also upward. That is, the up leg will cause the hip to twist up. Great. Now, because of what is happening to the hip here, there's going to be a massive an important change that happens on the spine to counteract this twisting at the lower body, which we shall see. So this is what we're going to create: up right and up left. Let's work on the up poses. So here's up right, that is at frame 7. I'm going to push him up, and I'm going to push him forward, and I'm going to twist him to his left. And then from here I'm going to tilt, favoring the left leg. Great. So based on this, I'm going to create the poses for the legs. So the first thing I'll do is I'll plant this leg. So I'll simply take this, copy it, along with all these minor parts. Copy. Actually, yes, let's get the full leg. This, and this. Copy. Paste. Yes, this has to be 0. And since we know where this leg needs to be, it needs to be slid back to the edge. And to get it right, we need to do this. We have to roll it off the ankle. We don't want to pop the leg, it should be a little bit inward. Great. Now, it's important that when this is done, this must have changed a bit, especially the angle especially this little controller. So I'm going to drop it down to 0. Here, so here's contact, down and up, and we'll come back to keep improving it. But so let's work on everything else. This leg is going to be something like this. And the knee is going to be slightly inward. So let me do the opposite leg, which is at frame 23. So same process. Okay, so here we have it. So I have done the legs up right and up left. Just a few more adjustments, and what we can do is check the graph editor to see how even our work is. So here we go. So for the hip, I raised him too high here compared to this, so I'm going to make the hip about the same in both places. And that should improve the leg pose here as well. So it's good to compare the hip angling and the positions using the graph editor. Great, and I'll also check the angling of the hips. For that, select the hip and go to rotate X, Y, and Z. Looks about right. Very good. So now let's test it out. It's time to clean up some of this work that we've done so far. I'm selecting the hip and I'm saying that, see that the graphs are quite wonky. So let's fix it up. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that things look good here. Same level, same level, same level. Z, okay. This is the movement forward. That is his hip moving forward. Right, let's keep it the same. In fact, so I'll take this. It doesn't have to be exact, but it should be pretty much similar. And this, of course, will make a small change, alteration in this. Great. Back to the hip. Translate. Z looks good. Y, right, and X will come to X later. So I'm going to select yes. Now I'm going to select all these curves and do a quick spline pass on it. There we go. So that should make the run cycle immediately a little more smoother to look at. Very good. Let's do the same for the legs as well. That is the biggest moving part would be this and this. So see how the curves are all over the place. So I'm going to just select all this and simply do a spline pass. We will improve it more deliberately later, but this is just a quick improvement overall. Great. Now we can continue our work. Let's work on the flight poses. So according to my timing, it's in frames 11 and 27. Right, so the features of the flight pose is that both feet are off the ground. Literally, he's flying. And so we want to craft the legs as well in a way that that shows flight. But at this stage, we are focused only on the hips. That is to just create that lift to allow for a clean takeoff like this. And we'll work on the legs later. So I'm going to select the hip. And what I'm really doing is just going to lift him straight up, and we can do it in translate Y. So it's at frame 11 and 27. So a good way to do this is to just put a key directly in on the curve like this. So 11 and 27 like that, and then select the two and lift it up. That is, hold while in the move tool. With the move tool on, hold down shift and middle mouse drag straight up. And yeah, let's just create a nice lift for the hip. That's a little too low. That might be enough. Here, we go with this. Great. Now let's just clean up the curve. The top tangents do need to be flat like this, and so the rest we will adjust accordingly. I'm going to create a nice smooth transition, and again a good clean smooth transition out. A nice dome shaped look here. Now to get this one correct, the best way is to select this and this, first flatten it, and then select the tangents on the outer ends and move it together. And I'm aiming to make this clean, which means this will also be clean, and this will kind of mimic this as well. There we go. Now let's take a look. There we go. Now we are beginning to see a nice cool muscular run shaping up. Ignore all the visual errors like the spine and the arms doing weird things. Try to feel the run from on the hip and the legs, and that's it. The rhythm of it. See if you can believe it. Now it's very important that do your work until you feel everything up to now looks good. Only then does it make sense to continue. Otherwise, it's just going to make things worse. So feel free to go back to the tutorials and work your way up to this stage. During the run cycle, the hip thrusts forward And that change is something that is noticeable between the down pose and the up pose. That is, between from the down pose to the up pose is where you'll see this thrust forward, this push forward. That's what creates that energy going forward. We're going to create that. Remember that we actually had created a pose for the hip on the z-axis to create that thrust. So now what we're going to do is just improve the whole thing by making sure that in the down pose that the hip is actually pulled back a little, and that's what will create the difference between this down and this up. Is that rate of change is what will create that energy during the movement. So let's see how we do that. What I'm going to do is just insert a key right here, and similarly for the other down left, I'm going to insert a key here. And then I'm going to, instead of making it a nice continuous smooth acceleration, I'm going to just reduce its placement a bit, so that there's a difference between this rate and that rate, and that's what creates the noticeable acceleration. Here we go. Right, now let's also clean this up. This and this, I'm going to flatten it first, and oh yeah, it took care of itself. So there we go. It's a nice and continuous. I think I will reduce this a little more. So I'm selecting both together, holding down shift, middle mouse, pull it back a little. Okay, good. Now let's see. Great. So you can feel that thrust, that moving forward. Now during the run cycle, the hip shifts laterally, that is sideways, and that is noticeable in the down poses. So in the down poses where that shift happens the most, and it shifts to the right during the down right, and the hip shifts to the left during the down left. We can account for that now. To do that, I'm going to the front pose, to this view, and I'll go to the down right and shift it more to, actually that's not down, is it? This is down, right? Down pose, and shift him to the right. Not too much, but yet it should be very noticeable. See that change from the contact to the right. And similarly, we'll do the same for on the other side. Now let's make it clean in the graph, right? So -7, oops. I'm just going to copy that and just put it here. Though I don't like to do exact numbers, in this case I will put a little bit. Or I'll do it just because it's a very, very precise kind of a movement. All right, now let's clean this up a little more. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that the tangents are flat at the top, and then I will just manipulate this to make it go like this. Same thing here. I'm going to first flatten this, and then shift select these two outer tangents and kind of bend it so that there's a nice transition into this, just as there is a nice transition into that. Great. Now let's see what it looks like. There you go. So now you can feel it. Now try not to get distracted by the wonky looking arms and the wobbly spine. Just the lower body is what we should look at. In fact, we can see it from the top. So you should be able to see a nice sideway movement and thrusting forward and backward as well. A side note, for every stage of work we are doing, make sure that the Maya file is being saved in the naming convention that clarifies what that stage is, so that if there's a problem, I can stop working and start continuing from where the problem area was and reworking forward. And the worst thing to do is to not have version control, a clear version control system, something like this, so that you have to start everything from scratch. Now that we have the animation looking like this, it's time to work on the legs. That is, let's go to each of these 9 poses for the legs and set it up right. So let's go with let's start. Here's the first pose, contact right. That looks fine. Down pose, that looks fine. Alright, this pose, I'm going to make some changes. The first thing I'll do is make sure that we have a good stretch going here. Without hyperextension. Okay, that looks good. But this one is a little, what I'm gonna do this. I'm just bringing it in a bit. Next, for the next pose, right, so this is the flight pose. Let's come to this in a second. Let's take care of everything else first. Right, so here's the next contact pose. Looks good. This looks good. This one, I'm going to pull this in, pull this up. Great. Now I'm going to the flight poses. Here's a flight pose. So obviously we don't have any breakdown for the legs for this. So here's how I'm going to do this. So this flight pose is going to be right after this right up pose. So the leg is going to straighten out and pull back, so that it's really just an extent. It's a continuation of this pose. Now I'm going to just turn this a bit this way and relax the leg just a bit. Whereas the leg is straight here, I'm just relaxing leg while still angling it towards this corner, that corner. Okay, let's do the same to the other leg and then come back to the floating leg. So 27, let's do the same thing. Sometimes I like to do do the same thing on both sides while my memory is still strong in terms of what I did. Right. Yes, and I just remembered we have to nuke out this number here. There. Now I'll be able to do a proper job. Rotate this towards the back a bit and relax the straightness of the leg, and yet it should aim towards this spot where the leg was pushing off of. Great, let me do the same for the other leg, just making sure that this number 0 has been removed. Yes, there we go. Okay, now, so I got the stretchy leg on the flight pose done for frame 11 and for frame 27. Great. Now let's do the floating leg for the flight pose at frame 11 here. And so here what I'm going to do is I want to make sure that this pose complements the next pose very correctly. So I'm going to, I'll just drop a key there so I can toggle. So alright, just gonna need to complement this. So what's gonna happen is I'm going to lower it, pull it back, and turn it upward, so it's like a kick towards the front. Okay, Great. And to make sure that I get the same thing going for the other leg, I'm going to use our what is this, grease pencil tool. I'm going to let me just draw this picture of this leg here, so that the other leg is going to look the same. Where's grease pencil? Grease pencil. There we go. Okay. So I'll go to the 27 and make it look the same. Right, now let's just play it, and I'm going to remove the grease pencil mark with this. Okay. Good, it's getting better. So now you can see the heel kicking up, and we'll improve it. We'll improve it. But now let's see. Let's review it and refine the legs even further. And now let's also go to see the motion from the front, paying attention to how the knees are pointing. The main idea is to use the knee to make sure that the leg is firm and it's not wobbling about, while still maintaining an arc where the knee tends to be slightly outward. Okay, so here we go. That looks good. Great. Similarly, the left knee. So if I catch the knee too much out, I pull it in, and if it's too much in, I pull it out, to make sure that it's kind of working off a plane that is consistent, so that the legs are firm when playing. There we go. That looks good. Let's see how it looks from the side. Yes, I like what I see so far. During the run cycle, the spine twists, and the twist happens the most during at the flight right and the flight left. That is, at flight right, when the hip is twisted towards his left, the spine is twisted towards his right. And similarly, in flight left, the spine is twisted towards his right. So this twisting movement is essential for propelling the character forward. Right, so here's how we do it. I've made a selection set to select the spine, and the spine are these three circles, these three blue circles, and not the arrow. It's the three blue circles. So that's what we're going to use to create the twist. So I'm first going to the flight right pose, which is this one. See, he's up in the air. Here I'm going to the best way to twist it is to do it from the top view along this red axis. So I'm twisting it in the opposite direction as of the spine, sorry, the hip. See, the hip is towards the left, the spine is towards, no, the hip is towards the right, the spine is towards the left. It's towards the left. And how much? I'd say something about this much should be sufficient. Great. Now it's important to focus on one axis of rotation at a time for the spine. So therefore, I'm not going to be worried about any other angle, any other axis. Right now, it is just the red axis. So at this point, I'm going to do the same on the flight left pose, which is this. So now it's going to be twisting to his right. To his right. Like that. Great. Now let's just get a sense of how it's looking. Great. Now it's a little hard to see with the arms, right? So we will be working on the arms very quickly before we do more work on the spine, just so that we can visualize how the arms are pumping together with the spine to create the twisting movement. We're now going to bring in the arms into the picture. To have a good twisting action on the spine, we need to bring in the arms too, because it is part of that twist, and yet it's not exactly in the same pose that we created. In fact, for arms, the two extreme poses are created in the up poses, so up right and up left. Let's get working on the extreme poses for the arms. So it's going to be in the up position. So here it is, that's the up position. And so I'm going to get started. So here it's the left arm goes to the back. It is important to spend the time to get this pose looking as awesome as possible, because this is going to determine the flavor of this run of a character. Make sure to include the shoulder that's going to be pulled backwards a bit like this, and the elbow, angle the elbow very effectively to create the pose. And here I'm making sure that the alignment of the wrist is along the length of the forearm. And for the right arm, it's going to be in the front, of course. Again, take the time to get this right. Here the shoulder is going to be forward a bit, and definitely work on the elbow to create a very dynamic pose. So this is a very muscular character, so I want a very muscular, masculine posturing. So this is what I'm creating. So it's like, it should feel like a Superman style pose. Notice that the arm is curled inward, and when seen from the front, I'd like to bring the arm in a bit like this. So in here, so it collides with the profile with the silhouette, and here it's out so that there's a gap with the silhouette, like that. Okay, there you go. Once we have created this arm posture, we can create this one very easily simply by flipping it using our studio library. And just as a reminder how it works, first create a set that is an arms set, selecting this, this, and this, similarly this, this, and this, and create a selection set, which is what I have here. And when you're done with that, make a pose. So I'm going to create a pose, create pose, and this is, I'm just calling it a temporary pose because I won't be using it quite a lot. Capture, and I'm saving it. And because I have a mirror, I can now mirror it to create the opposite pose. And for that, I would simply go to the opposite, which is up left, and up left, and having mirror on, I'll simply apply, and that creates the pose. Let's ignore the tilting of the body. We'll fix that very shortly. Our current job is just to get the arms, the two extreme poses. So there you go. So now when you play it, you'll see, you'll get the poses, and obviously it's very rough, but it's enough for us to proceed with the spine, which is really the main thing we're focused on right now. Now, to get the arms working a little better, I'm going to make sure that I have the curves of the arms in a spline, so that it's a little more smooth. We will be working on the arms more, but currently its job is only to be a placeholder for its extremes as we are working on the spine. So now we work on the spine squash, that is in up right and up left. We're going to just squash the spine. And so for that I have a selection set for spine, which is just the 3 blue circles. All right, 3 blue circles, not the arrow. Do not touch the arrow. 3 blue circles. Here we go. And let's make that that squash pose. But before we do that, we need to make sure that the body is always aimed more or less to the same area. Otherwise the body will keep flipping forward and backward, which is very, very bad. So I'm going to turn on grease pencil and just make a small mark from here. Put an X here, and this represents where the head is pointing towards, or rather the torso is pointing towards. We will use this as a marker for us. Now spine. I'm selecting the spine, and now I go to the up pose, which is this pose, and it's time for us to create a squash. So here's a squash happening, and I'd say but this much should be sufficient. But we don't leave it alone. We have created a small curvature. We need to now select the lower part of the spine, lower spine, okay, and turn it backwards to preserve the curvature while still keeping the body still aimed towards our X. So now you can see when I go to this contact pose, it looks the body's aimed towards here, and in the squashed pose of the spine, the body's still aimed, and yet you can feel the squash on the body. But let's also make sure that in this pose, when seen from the front, our character is angling correctly towards that X. So I'll go to 0, make sure that I know where that X needs to be, and go to our up pose, select the spine. I'm selecting all spine together, and I'm going to kind of aim it towards the X like that, maybe a little away, like that. Cool. That curvature is what I'm trying to get. And let's do the same for the opposite, which is here's the up pose. Actually, I need to make the squash pose. So here it is. I go here to the up pose. I select the spine and curl the body forward, and then while keeping the body curled, I'll just select the lower part of the spine, which is this, and turn it backwards towards the X, so that the curvature is maintained while the whole body is aiming towards X, like that. And in this very same pose, I'll make sure that when seen from the front also the alignment is kept. For this I select all 3 spine and go to the up pose, and here's where I turn it that way. Great. Always aim for very strong athletic postures. So now let's see how this looks. Now as I'm seeing this, I'm thinking that the squash is not very apparent. So I'm going to amplify it. I'm selecting, so what I'm thinking is I'll go to the upright pose, and I'm going to squash by selecting one of these and just kind of pushing it, exaggerating it a little more. The alignment certainly is off, but it's okay because most of the body still is aimed towards. And let's do the same here as well. Great. Now let's see how it feels. There. Now I'm beginning to feel the squash. And if you want to get even more adventurous, to get that squash even more pronounced, what I would do is I'll select that same spine, like this chest one, and notice there's nothing here. I'll just go there and aim it backwards a bit, so that squashing happens more in this area as opposed to this continuously. So it'll make that squash a little more pronounced. So here I'll do the same here as well. Let's go back just a bit. Now you can press play it. There. Now you cannot miss it. Great. So that's what it looks like at this point. Okay, before we move any further, let's work on improving some of the fundamentals. So the first thing I find glaring is that the forward and backward movement is a little too much. So let me handle that now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just select the hips and go to the graph editor and see translate Z, which is what makes him move forward and backward. See, Z. And I'll just reduce how much that happens. And it's really in that thrust that it's a little too much. So I'm going to just grab those two, hold down shift middle mouse while in move tool mode. That is, select these two, hold down shift middle mouse, just drag it backwards. And by doing this, the leg pose also improves, as you notice. So it doesn't have to be, he doesn't have to be hyperextended. He should not. This looks a lot better, more athletic as well. Okay, now let's see what that feels like. That's much better. Okay, now let's look at it from the front. Okay, so now I can see that the sideways can be improved also. It's a little too much. And so these are thoughts that come up when you do your work, take a break, and re-look at it. So I just think that sideway on that side is good, but here it's a little too much. He's kind of angling too much to the right. So and the problem could be not in that movement, but the rotation itself. So here's rotate X, no, sorry, rotate Z, and I'm going to just put him back a little more to the center. And this one, okay, now let's see. That's better. Now let's look at the translate X again. That is the sideway lateral shifts. So what I'm going to do to improve this is, instead of this being flat, I'm going to just, can I do a tiny bit of a turn like this and then move it up a bit. Similarly here. Now these two I need to do together. Great, now let's see. Great, this feels a little more firmer the way he's running, and I like that. The next thing I'd like to improve is the posing of the hip and the spine. It's a bit bent here, so I'm going to improve it. So I'm going to select this and rotate X. So what I'm going to do is just move it all together. I'm straightening him out, and then I'll select just the first spine and rotate it forward. And that kind of removes that crinkle that was there, that was there on the in the lower back. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a little on the lower spine. I'm going to make sure that, see, when seen from here, I see that he's a little unstable when from the side. So I see the problem here in that I need to put a breakdown right here on the lower spine, so to bring him back to that X, so that way it straightens out nicely. Same thing here as well. Now the run is more firm, and that's what I'm looking for. And from the side also it looks more firm. Now let me improve some of the leg poses. So this is the one I'm going to improve further, because the way this is supposed to really look is, now the right leg is fine. This left leg needs to look more like this. It should be on the way to reach the ground, so it blends between these two, transitions between these two nicely into that landing, the contact pose. So this is how I'm going to change it. And when seen from the front, looks fine. Great. Now let me do the same for the other opposite leg, this one. So I'm going to simply make it a bit this way. Yes. And now let's see how it plays. Great. This feels more athletic and believable as well. Let's now improve the positioning of the arms so that the arms will be more natural in its swinging and pumping. So let's go one by one. So this is where the arms really needs to be exact. So firstly, in this contact pose, what I'm doing is, for this extended arm, I'm going to draw him a little closer to the body, like that. And by doing that, I have to now copy this pose over to the end, this last pose as well. Very good. Now let me do the same thing from the opposite arm. That is, for this arm, I will bring it a little closer to the body, like that. Okay. Next, let's go to the very next pose. The next pose is this. So for the down pose, which is the next pose, this looks right. This is exactly where it needs to be. And so the opposite of that is this. The arm on the other side looks good. Now, so let's go to the very next pose, which is the up pose. In this up pose, I'm going to take that arm and not bring him so much backwards, but more towards, more like this. And let's do the same in the opposite pose, which is this. I'm going to bring in more towards this. So this lingering of the arms at different places is key to give the right kind of a timing. So now let's look at the flight pose. In the flight pose, I'm going to make some changes. I'm going to take this arm and place it not hanging out there, but a little still close to the body. And its corresponding opposite is this. So I'm bringing him a little close to the body. Now let's see what it looks like. There, now you can feel a more decisive pumping action where the arms are lingering in places more than instead of simply swinging continuously. Okay, now let's make some improvements in the front when seen from the front. Now further improvements in the arm poses to make it even more natural. So I'm going very, very closely now to check to see these positionings. In this pose, I'm going to move him a little closer like this. And in here, raising the arm up just a bit. And here, exact positionings of these arms during the run cycle makes all the difference in making it look natural. And here, the up pose. Here's where I'm going to really lift the arm. And in this one, the flight pose, the arm, I'm lifting it up so that it's still hanging in the air. And now let's do the same for the other arm. And when all the poses are done, this is what it looks like. So now let's take a look. And now for some touch-ups on the positionings of the elbows. It goes in, it turns in like that, very good. Now here, as it comes out, in between these two, I'm going to make this guy raise up more and this one go back a little so that it kind of starts and then turns in and begins and just goes up. Let's do the same for this elbow also. Here, this goes up. So it goes position 1, 2, 3. You can see that lift. And I'll create a greater dynamism in the elbow by doing the following. That is, I go here, so elbow goes in, and then instead of it coming out so much, I'm gonna pull it back. So elbow begins to come out, turns more, and then lifts up. And let's do the same on the side. Okay, So now you can see the elbow doing its part in a more connected way to the rest of the body. Now let's look at the neck poses. So the neck poses currently are just working off a contact pose and the left contact and back to the right contact, just 3 poses. But in the middle there's some things we need to do. So here is where I'm going to make a difference. I'm selecting the base of the neck. Now the beautiful thing about this rig is that the head is always going to be steady, because it's kind of designed to keep the head steady. So it's just minimal work we need to do here. So I'm going to remove this strange posing by just straightening out the neck so that the neck is held the same. And I'm doing the same here as well. Great. It's now time to make this one simple breakdown to allow the foot to get flat, that is, get slapped down sooner. Currently it takes 3 frames, so I'm going to go 1 frame before, select the heel and rotate X turns to 0. Similarly, let's do the same on the other leg as well. So right here, done. That creates a very firm footing. It's time to spline. Splining is a process in which we look at all the curves and improve it so that there's clean transition, pops and shivers and jitters and jolts and all those kinds of things, mechanical issues of curves disappear, because as you know, curves are generated when animation is done, and these curves need to be smoothed out. So that's what splining is. Let's start. The first thing I'm going to do for splining is to select the entire character and overall do a spline pass. That is, click on this button for spline. So we just spline all the tangents and suddenly everything gets smooth. It doesn't mean that it will improve it. Some things may break off in that process, but overall you can see a nice clean smooth motion, and that is great. Next, what we're going to do is go to individual components starting from the hip and look at the curves created, XYZ. I'm pressing F to view everything, and you'll see that the splining has done a fairly good job except for the ends. So now we go to each of the ends. It is translate X, press F, select these 2 and see how the tangents are off. We need to even it. So I'm going to first flatten it and then select one end of the tangent and evenly turn it so that this goes out to the same style of tangent to smoothly transition, or rather to do that loop. Similarly, I'm going to do this for each of these other axes. So this will take a little bit of time, and let's just bang through it. And as I'm doing this, I'm just kind of finding areas to clean up the transition. See, this is better for the movement. Checking this, I see a little crinkle here, so I can fix it. This is why splining takes a little bit of time. And I'll come back to the x-axis a little later because that requires some extra attention. Now that the hip is done, let's go to the other big areas. So the foot, and the foot should be fairly simple, but we need to make sure that there are no slippage happening in the feet. And now, here's the result after the splining is done. You can see a nice, smooth run cycle. The arms are pumping beautifully. I'm looking for things to improve. I'm trying to see if I can catch something, but overall it looks pretty good. Now to create a nice play blast, this is what I do. Feel free to do a proper rendering if necessary, but what I'll be doing is just a play blast render. So I'll do some basic things such as turn on our ambient occlusion, and another thing to do is of course turn off everything except the polygons, and have this running not 0 to 32 but say 5 times its length. So 32 times 5 is 160. So I'll play it. So it'll play 160. Very good. Another thing we'll do is we'll take the camera, that is, select the camera, and the default is 235. So that's a little boring. I'll just make it 30. So it creates more of a sense of a depth. And then frame it. Of course, I'd make several play blasts, like maybe from that angle, another one, maybe another one, something more dramatic like this, and so on. So, all right, in this case, this is what I'm doing. Great, and yes, so with that, play blast, options, make sure it's AVI, quality, 100, scale, 100, save to file, and find a place to save it. Let's call it render 1, save it, and play blast. Because AVIs are huge, I would then take it to a media encoder or some software to turn it into an MP4 file, which is going to be a much smaller file format. Here's media encoder. I've thrown it into this. The default settings look good, H.264, and just let it render. It takes just a couple minutes. As you can see, the original AVI it's like half a gig, and the MP4 is very small. And here it is.